we go.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. So, tonight, where we left off was basically Xavi and the Anika giant and the old man in the canoe, and his name is Eric. And then there's the abacus, right? All four of them are there at the canoe. And they were looking into a crystal. Xavi was looking into a crystal, and he was remembering something. Or he was not remembering something, he was actually seeing something. So, that's where we left off. But I'm not going to continue telling you that part of the story yet. I'm going to tell you a different part of the story. So, Xavi's mom was laying there on the cold metal floor inside of a room that she could only assume was metal because when the door had been shut to the room, it sounded like a metal door. And it sounded like it shut against a metal wall, and it felt like she was on the metal floor. So she assumed that she was in a very dark, cold metal room. The reason why she felt like it was dark is because she had a sheet or something that felt like a sheet over her head, and her hands had been tied behind her back. Now, she could hear some noise off in the distance. It sounded like people talking, but she couldn't understand them. They were so far away that it was pretty muffled, and it sounded like the sound was coming through several walls. So it was very faint, what she was able to hear. Now, Xavi's mother was laying there, cold and quite afraid, because she had just been taken, tied up, and put in a cold metal room. She had no idea what was going on, and what terrified her even more was the people, or not people, but the type of beings that had taken her. She remembers back and has a vision of her captor. That's the person that takes her. The vision of the person that had taken her, the idea or the thought that she had was, it was a very tall and broad, muscular, what seemed to be a man, but wasn't actually a human man. There were men and women of whatever it was that took her. So what had actually taken her was a man. Now, the man that had taken her, he had almost a pure white skin. Not like the color of my skin. My skin's not actually white if you look at it. No, his skin was more like the color of this wall. It was white, as can be. And his eyes were very green. He was actually a beautiful creature if he wasn't just trying to take her and tie her up. More like it's the color jade, which is a very dark green. No, here. It was the color jade. Well, I guess right here, a very dark, or right here, a very dark green, kind of like a very dark leaf, a green dark leaf. Now, that was the color of his eyes, and they were very large eyes. He was a very beautiful creature, a very beautiful being, except for the fact that he was aggressive. He was angry when he was taking her, and he had tied her up. Now, he didn't necessarily seem very angry. In fact, him being aggressive seemed like it was more for show. He needed to show that he was taking her, and so he showed that he was aggressive or angry so that it would frighten her. But she felt like he wasn't actually angry. she felt like he was, well, way too powerful to actually care. To actually have any, for her to have any chance of escaping, she knew there was none. Because the being was very large. He was very tall. He was about 7 feet tall, which means that he was much larger than me. Now, that was the men, the males of those beings. And the female beings of those beings, those women were much shorter than the men. The women were about, like if I was standing up, they were about 5'8", and so if I was standing up, the women would come up to about to my chin or my nose. Now, she was sitting there listening carefully, trying to listen carefully to any kind of information or any kind of words that she could make out. She didn't know if they were speaking English. She didn't know if they were just grunting. She couldn't really understand. Now, when she was taken, the beings, they were not actually speaking at all. They were just pointing and looking at each other. It was kind of like a military exercise, or not an exercise, but a practice, a mission. They went in, they quickly took her, and they left immediately. It was a very quick abduction. Now, another thing about these beings is the way that they look is, so for the men, they're very tall, right, and very strong looking. Their muscles they have very big muscles, and they don't wear clothes like you and I do. They wear more like leather, like clothes that are made from animal skins, and their hair, for example, is a long, dark, super black hair that goes down to their waist. This is the men. And a lot of times they're braided, or maybe there's one braid that goes down, or maybe there's many braids, like dreads or something like that. Well, either way, all of the men...
Teeny braids?
Dreads?
Yeah.
Yeah, like little teeny ones. Basically, there's a lot of different ways that they do it.
I've seen someone like that.
Okay, shh. Just listen, okay? So, there's a lot of different ways that they do their hair, but it's always braided up somehow. And their hands are very large, because they're 7 feet tall, their hands are very big. And their nails are almost like claws, actually. They go out quite a bit. They go out about this far, and they're also black. Now, like I said, they are actually a very beautiful creature, but they're very intimidating because they're so large and so powerful. And you can tell that actually they could hurt you very easily if they wanted to. Now, Xavi's mother was laying there on the cold metal floor, listening very carefully, and she could hear someone actually coming up to the door. She could hear large footsteps, so she figured that it probably was a man, because of how large they were. The door opened, and the man came in and grabbed her and picked her up and walked her over, holding her over his shoulder. Now they walked into another room, and she felt like they were walking into another room because she could see that the light was changing in the sheet that was over her head. Or actually, it was more like a bag, kind of like a bag or something over her head, but it felt like a sheet. Now, they put her down, and immediately there was a voice that she heard that was so familiar to her, that shouted out, "Mother!" She quickly came to the realization that it sounded like her daughter. Jez, is that you? Mom! Mom, is that you? Now, the thing is that Xavi's mother has a tattoo of a tree on her arm. And that is how Jezzy was able to tell that it was her mother.
You said Jezzy.
Sorry, Jez or Jezzy. There's a lot of different ways that she's called. But Xavi's sister was there. Mom! Mom! Is that you? Jez, she says. Yes, it's me. Where are you? I'm in a cage. Up in the ceiling. A cage in the ceiling? Quiet. A large, deep voice says. Quiet. You better be quiet. Now, she didn't feel like tempting or testing these giant beings. Now, they weren't really giant, but they were very large beings. She didn't feel like testing their patience. She didn't feel like getting hurt for any reason. So she decided to be quiet. But she knew that her Jez was alive, and that was more than anything, that felt better than anything she had felt in a long time. She had, basically, the worst thing for any kind of a parent is for your child to be taken and to not know what's happened to them. You don't know whether they've died, you don't know whether they're alive, you don't know whether they're hurt, whether they've moved on, or whether they're happy. You don't know. All you can do is imagine. But Xavi's mother, her name was Patrice. Xavi's mother, Patrice, she was so happy to know that her daughter was still alive. And so she knew that what that means is that there might be a chance that they could possibly escape. At some point, somehow they could escape. Whether that's true or not, there is. Whether that's true that she would be able to. She thought that. She felt the possibility, and that made her happy. But it was the happiness was immediately followed by a sadness, realizing that her Jez had been taken for a very long time, maybe 6 months. And she doesn't know what kind of terrible things her beautiful little daughter had gone through in order for this moment to be. For her to be here and for her to be alive. Her mother, Patrice, was also thrown in another cage up in the ceiling. And Patrice started to whisper, Jez, are you near me? Jez, are you around me? Jez, are you around me? Quiet, I said. And that's the end of the story for tonight.
I wanted more.
I know.
I want to watch.
Hey you guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, make sure to subscribe, share, like, and comment on the video. I really enjoy doing this, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about the story. Any questions that you have or comments, make sure to put those in the comments below. Also, make sure that you subscribe because it'll notify you of the next chapter when I upload the video. Again, thank you very much, and enjoy the next chapter.